beginners, I would recommend making this smaller security blanket as practice before attempting to make the larger baby blanket. This is the back side of the security blanket, and you can see that I placed the boat with the life preserver without the button strap. So that's an option too. If you don't want to put a button strap, you can just put the little boat with the life preserver on your security blanket if that's what you want. And this is the pattern for the back side of the blanket. If you like this method of creating a security blanket before attempting the larger baby blanket, you may like this other video tutorial that I have for this gorgeous security blanket. And I show how to make the heart button loop and strap for attaching toys and teethers. For those that are making the larger baby blanket, the length measures approximately 56 inches and the width is approximately 35 inches. I show you how to make the larger crochet baby blanket, the wave stitch. Here is the front of the blanket. So I show you how to make this wave stitch pattern, but also on this blanket I had a lot of fun. I decided to make some ridges on the front of the blanket. So I matched both ends of the blanket so they look the same. And then the center has no ridges. Now I'm going to show you this baby blanket with a baby doll that's about the size of a 3 to 6 month old baby. And here she is all wrapped up in the baby blanket. And this is what the back of the baby blanket looks like. It has ridges throughout the back of the baby blanket. And on top of the baby blanket I put the smaller security blanket so you could actually see the size. So the length is approximately 17 inches and the width is also approximately 17 inches. For this crochet project, you're going to need your 5.75 millimeter crochet hook, as well as a tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. I'm using my Pound of Love yarn, and this is a turquoise color. And then for the alternate color, I'm using this beautiful variegated Bernat Baby Sport yarn. You'll only need a skein of each, and you'll have plenty left over. If you're making the large baby blanket, you'll still need just one skein of each of these yarns. But if you're making the security blanket 2, you may not have enough to make both the big baby blanket and the security blanket. The first thing we're going to do is start with a slip knot. So you're going to take your yarn, fold it over on itself to form a loop. Then take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb, then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop, then cinch down the knot, and then just put the loop around the crochet hook, not too tight and not too loose. I'm just going to show you the first 4 chains so you'll know how to make it. So you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, go through the loop for your first chain, second chain, third, and fourth. So if you're making the baby blanket, you're going to start with a chain of 110. And if you're making the security blanket, if you're a beginner, I would recommend practicing with the smaller security blanket until you get used to making the stitches. So for the smaller security blanket, you're going to be starting with a chain of 50. And if you're making the bigger baby blanket, you start with a chain of 110. Now this pattern works in multiples of 10 for the full wave, but if you wanted to make a half wave, you can get away with a multiple of 5. So multiple of 10 for the full wave, and then multiple of 5 for a half wave. So this is what my chain of 50 looks like. Now this is where you can take and measure your chain. So you can get your favorite tape measure and just measure. So if you want to make a specific size for your baby blanket or security blanket or whatever item that you're creating, this is where you measure to get the size. So say you want a larger size, you'll start with a larger chain. But just remember that this crochet pattern requires a multiple of 10, but you can get away with a multiple of 5 as well. So my chain of 50 measures approximately 14 inches, which is what I want. The other thing you also have to remember is that this is only for the center portion of the blanket, so the beautiful border that I'm going to show you how to create is going to add probably about an inch or two more to the length and the width of your security blanket or baby blanket. Okay, so now we're going to start with a pattern. So I have my chain of 50 right now. I finished my last stitch was 50. So I'm going to hold that last stitch with my middle finger and my thumb. And then I'm going to move up to the next row. So you're going to chain 1. Then you're going to go with your crochet hook into the second chain from the hook, which is the stitch that you're holding. So go ahead and go into that second stitch, the one that you were holding. And then you're going to bring up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook. Go ahead and yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through both loops for your first single crochet for the row. So now we're going to make a total of 5 single crochet. This first single crochet that we made counts as our first stitch. Now you're going to go into the second stitch and bring up a loop. Make your single crochet. So that counts as your second single crochet. And we're going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch until we have a total of 5 single crochet. So this is my third. Fourth. And fifth. So this is how your work should look after completing your first 5 single crochet. Now we're going to make a double crochet into the next 5 stitches. So 1 double crochet, go ahead and yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2 of the loops. You have 2 loops remaining. Go ahead and yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the 2 remaining loops. So you just completed 1 double crochet, and we want 1 double crochet into a total of 5 stitches. So this is our second double crochet. Third. Fourth. And fifth. So you've just completed 1 half wave. So the next row will complete the full wave. So this is why it's a multiple of 10. If you had a multiple of 5, then you'll either end with the 5 single crochet or the 5 double crochet. So it'll still look okay with a multiple of 5, but if you want the full wave, it'll be a multiple of 10. And then you just keep repeating this pattern all the way across. So I'm going to make 1 more set with you. We're going to start with 1 single crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. Then you're going to make 1 double crochet into the next 5 stitches. So that's my second double crochet. You want a total of 5. Third, fourth, and fifth. So you can see how you're creating this beautiful wave. Now this is only half of the wave. We're going to finish the top part of the wave for the next row. But go ahead and finish repeating this pattern. 5 single crochet and then 5 double crochet all the way across to the end and then come back. This is how your crochet work should look. Now if you're a beginner, I would recommend counting your stitches. So again, I'm going to use my tapestry needle to demonstrate. I'm going to put my tapestry needle through both loops of a stitch. So that's 1 stitch, 2 stitch. So now that you know what the stitch looks like, go ahead and count all the way across. You should have a total of 50 stitches. So now we just completed a half wave. So this row was half of the wave. We're going to complete the top part of the wave now. So we finished with a double crochet in the last stitch. So now we're going to make a double crochet for the next row, or our second row. We're not going to count that first chain as the first row. So we just finished the first row. To start the second row, because the previous row had a double crochet and we want to complete the wave, we're going to make a double crochet to start for the second row. So go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now go ahead and turn your work and we're ready to start the second row. So this first chain 3 that we made counts as the first double crochet for the row. So here you can see this is the first up slope of the stitch directly below your chain 3 and is directly above the previous row's double crochet. So we're not going to work into this stitch. We're going to work into the next stitch over. And because we're making the top part of the wave, we're going to be working into both loops for this row. And that's going to become more, you're going to realize why I'm letting you know this. It's going to become more apparent when we start making the next half row. So when you're completing the top portion of a wave, make sure that you're going through both loops of the stitch to complete the wave. So now I need a total of 5 double crochet, and they're going to line up over the previous row's double crochet to complete the wave. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the next stitch over, and again I'm going under both loops. I'm going to bring up a loop, make my double crochet. So that counts as my second double crochet. Third, fourth, and fifth. Now I'm going to make 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches. And here you can see how I completed 1 full wave. And you're going to repeat this pattern all the way across back to the end. So now it's 1 double crochet into the next 5 stitches and then 1 single crochet into the next 5 stitches, and they're lining up directly above the prior rows double crochets and single crochets. So now you've completed 1 full wave. So it takes 2 rows to complete a full wave. Now for beginners, I would recommend that you make sure that your work, all your double crochets are lining up, all your single crochets are lining up, all the way across these 2 rows to complete the wave, and also just double check that you have 50 stitches to complete the row. Now we're ready to move up to the next row. And the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to be alternating the wave, meaning that here we have all of our double crochets. We're going to move all of the double crochets over to start. So, because we finished with a single crochet on the previous row where we completed a full wave, now we're going to start with a double crochet for the new half wave. So you're going to start with a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to turn your work, and again you're going to see the little upslope here directly beneath your chain of 3. You're not going to work in that stitch. You're going to go into the next stitch over. Now it's going to become apparent about both loops of the stitch. I'm going to show you again. So this is the stitch that we're going to be working into with our crochet hook. I'm going to show you with my tapestry needle. But here you can see that there are 2 loops, the back loop and the front loop for the stitch. You're going to go right down the center of the next stitch and you're going to grab that back loop only. So again, this is the front loop and this is the back loop. So you're going to grab that back loop. And you're going to be working in the back loops of every stitch all the way across for this row. And what that's going to do is create a little ridge that separates your waves. So now we made our first chain 3, which counts as our first double crochet for the row. So now we're going to make our next double crochet into the back loop only. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to go down the center of the next stitch, you're going to grab that back loop only, and you're going to bring up a loop. And then complete your double crochet. So again, the count is the same. You want a total of 5 double crochet in the back loop only. So this is my 3rd double crochet, counting that first chain 3. This is my 4th and my 5th. Now, we've completed part of the half wave, but you can also see the ridge that's being created to separate your full wave. So the first 2 rows are the full wave, and now we're starting the half wave of the next row. So now we're going to make a single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So you can see how for our new wave the double crochets are over here over the single crochets, and now our single crochets are going to line up with the previous row's double crochet. So you're going to go into the next stitch, the back loop only, bring up a loop, and make our first single crochet. Second stitch, back loop only for our second single crochet. Next stitch, back loop only for our 3rd single crochet. next stitch, back loop only, and then our last stitch, back loop only for our last single crochet. And this is how your work should look. You should see that nice ridge being created. So go ahead, finish repeating this pattern all the way across and then come back. So I just finished my last single crochet, and for beginners you want to make sure that you have the ridge, the beautiful ridge that's created all across that row. So you want to make sure that you did that right. The other thing I like about this pattern is it's a multiple of 5. So if you, as long as you have 5 lined up where it's supposed to be and you end up with the 5 at the end, most of the time you won't have to go back and count the whole row to make sure you still have your 50 stitches. So now we've finished a half of the wave. We want to finish the top, or I should say the bottom of the wave. And now we want to finish the top portion of the wave. So again, there's 2 rows to complete a wave. This is our 3rd row. Now we're going to make our 4th row, which will be the top portion of the wave. So just take your crochet hook. Now we finished the last stitch with the single crochet. So that means that the next row for the top portion of the wave is going to be a single crochet. So to start the 4th row, you're going to chain 1. So yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for your chain of 1. So now if you haven't figured it out, the chain of 1 is equivalent to a single crochet, and then the chain of 3 is equivalent to the double crochet. So for this next row, we want it to be the same as the previous row to complete the upper portion of the wave. So we're starting with the single crochet. Now you can go ahead and turn your work. And since we're making the top portion of the wave, we don't want a ridge going through the center of your wave. So you want to go through both loops of the next stitch. So this upslope right here is beneath your chain 1. You don't want to go into that same stitch. You want to go into the next stitch over. So go into that next stitch. Now remember, we're making the upper portion of the wave, so we want both loops of the next stitch. So go ahead and bring up a loop and complete your 2nd single crochet. That first chain counts as your first single crochet for this row. Now you go into the next stitch, both loops, bring up a loop for your 3rd single crochet, next stitch, both loops for your 4th single crochet, and then the next stitch, both loops for the 5th single crochet. Now we want to make a double crochet into the next 5 stitches, and you want to go through both loops of the stitch. So there's 1, my 2nd double crochet, third, and again I'm going through both loops of the stitch, 4th double crochet, and my last double crochet. And this is how your work should be looking. So we completed 1 full wave, and you can see how the double crochets on the previous wave were here, and now we moved them over here. So we're going to be alternating that wave. Go ahead and finish completing this row and then come back. So now I finished my 4th row, and you should be able to see the beautiful pattern, the wave pattern that's being created. I finished 2 full waves. Remember, you need 2 rows to complete a wave. And you can also see here are the double crochets of 1 wave, and here are the double crochets of the 2nd wave, and that means that the next one will be over here. And then on the back side, so this is the right side, on the back side you're creating a ridge. This ridge will only be on the top of a finished wave. So that's one way that you could check your work. Now, if you think it's too difficult to remember this, you could make the waves, the ridge down the center too, and it won't really affect your work too much. It just will create a different pattern. But I wanted to show you this pattern because I want to make sure that you know how to make it this way, because it just turns out really beautiful. So for this pattern, I'm only creating the ridge to separate each full wave. So now we're getting ready to start on our 5th row. After I finish my 3rd full wave, I'll show you how to color change. That way you'll be able to make your own unique blanket. For mine, I made 3 waves and then a color change. So now I'm going to move up to the 5th row. So I'm going to start, since I'm starting a new wave, the previous row's wave was a double crochet. So I want to start with a single crochet for this next row. So I'm going to chain 1, turn my work. Now, since the previous rows completed a full wave, I want a ridge along the top of this wave. So I've already showed you how to do that. I'm going to work it with you though. So now I'm going to go into the next stitch, going into the back loop only to complete my 2nd single crochet. Next stitch, back loop only for my 3rd. Fourth, and 5th single crochet. And you can see how I'm creating the ridge on the wrong side of the work. Now I'm going to make my 5 double crochet. The other thing to notice is, because I'm starting a new wave, the single crochet stitches are above the double crochet stitches from the previous row. Now the double crochet stitches will be above the single crochet stitches of the previous row. So I'm going to make a double crochet into the next stitch in the back loop only. Now I finished the bottom portion of the wave, full wave. So go ahead, finish repeating this pattern all the way across for this row. So this is what my work is looking like. You could see the beautiful ridge going all the way across like it should be, and that's how yours should be looking as well. You don't want to continue working if you see that something's not quite right. If you're practicing it, you want to make sure that you get it right now. That way you have a beautiful security blanket when you're finished. You can see that my edges are straight. My ridges are waving across the blanket. I'm working in multiples of 5, and then the 10 stitches will complete the half wave. So now we're going to go and make the top part of this and finish this wave. So now I'm moving up to the 6th row to complete the wave. So since I'm completing the wave, my previous row was a double crochet, so we're going to want to start with a double crochet. So you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and turn your work. Since we're making the top part of the wave, you don't want a ridge going through the center of your wave, so you're going to be working through both loops of the next stitch. So you're going to make 1 double crochet into the next stitch, grabbing both loops. This is my 5th double crochet in both loops of the next stitch. And I just wanted to show you. So now you can see this is the first 2 rows wave. Here's the second waves, double crochets, and here is the third. So that's another way to double check your work to make sure that you're alternating your waves like you should be. Also on the right side I have no ridges, and then on the wrong side you have the ridges for separating each wave. So they should be on top of your wave. Now you can make your single crochet into the next 5 stitches, making sure to grab both loops. So go ahead, finish this row. I'm going to go ahead and finish this wave. So go ahead, finish this row, and then come back. So this is how my work looks so far. You can see the edges are straight. Also, my waves are alternating. So here's one double crochet round, the second wave, and the third wave. So this is the right side. I have no ridges on the right side, and if I turn it over to the wrong side, you could see the ridge that's on top of each wave and not down the center. So now I'm going to show you how to change colors. So now I just finished the single crochet of my last wave, and I'm moving up to my 7th row. So I'm going to take the alternate color, and in this case I'm using my variegated yarn. I'm going to bring up a loop, and you want to make sure that you have plenty of loose yarn end for burying into your work. Then go ahead and chain 1. So just yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for a chain of 1. Then you just want to turn your work, cut the previous colored yarn, and again you want to leave a loose yarn end for burying into the work. Then you can go ahead and tie a knot. And now you're ready to start with your new yarn color. So now this is where you want to look at your previous wave. I ended with a single crochet on my previous wave, and since I'm alternating waves, that means my new wave is going to start with a chain of 3. So go ahead and chain 3 with your new yarn color. Then turn your work, and we're going to be burying our loose yarn ends as we crochet. Now this new wave, we're going to want to create a ridge along the top of the wave. So in the next stitch over, you're going to want to go into the back loop only. So go ahead and yarn over. You're going to go into the back loop of the next stitch. And let me make sure I grab only the back loop. Okay, then you're going to want to go behind the loose yarn ends, both loose yarn ends. You're going to want to bring up a loop and then complete your double crochet. And you can kind of pull on the loose yarn ends to make sure that they're not getting bunched up. Now I'm going to make a double crochet into the next back loop. So I yarn over, go into the next back loop. I'm going to go behind the loose yarn ends. I'm going to bring up a loop, finish my double crochet. So you're still working the stitches the exact same way. I'm just working this so you can see how I go behind my loose yarn ends and how it looks. So this is my 4th double crochet. And I'm working in the back loops only and behind the loose yarn ends. So I finished the 5 double crochet, and because this is the bottom portion of the wave, you can see how it's kind of alternating. This is a single crochet row on the previous row, and I'm making a double crochet row now. Now I'm going to make a single crochet into the back loops of the next 5 stitches, and I'm still going behind my loose yarn ends. And I'm working in the back loops only of each stitch. So now I've buried my loose yarn ends enough. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the loose yarn ends. And when you trim the loose yarn ends, be careful that you don't cut your crochet work. And that's how you work it exactly the same way with your new yarn. So go ahead, finish this row, and then come back. So I just finished half of the bottom half of the wave. Now we're going to work on the top portion of the wave with our new color. So again, you're going to look at the previous row, and it was a single crochet, and since we're completing the top portion of the wave, you want to keep it a single crochet. So you're going to chain 1, turn your work, then because you don't want a ridge down the center of your wave, you're going to be working into both loops of the next stitch. So you're going to go into both loops, you're going to bring up a loop and make your single crochet. So this time we're completing the top portion of the wave, so our single crochets are going to line up with the previous row's single crochets, and our double crochets, our 5 double crochets, are going to line up with the previous row's double crochets to complete the wave. And again, you're working in both loops of the stitch for this row. And you see how you're creating a gorgeous stitch. So there's lots of ways of double checking your work. Again, you can see the double crochets of this wave, this wave, this wave, and then this wave, how they're alternating. There's no ridges on the front of the work. The ridges on the back of the work are on top of each wave. And a full wave has 2 rows. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So go ahead. Now you can finish the rest of your blanket. When you come back, I'll show you how many rows I made to complete my security blanket. And then you can change colors. I'm going to change colors after finishing this wave. So I'm going to change back to my blue, and then I'm going to make 3 more waves in blue and then switch back to my variegated yarn. But you can have fun with your security blanket. You don't have to use the same colors as me. I would recommend a similar style of yarn, and you also have to be careful when mixing yarns. I mixed yarns for mine. This is Pound of Love and this is Bernat Sport, but because they're similar yarns, baby yarns, they go well together, so it doesn't affect the size. If you try to use a different type of yarn other than a baby yarn, you may have different sizes and it may affect your blanket. So sticking with similar yarns as me, you should have no problem with the size and changing colors. So mine has 38 rows total. Both sides of the security blanket are straight. And I also started with 3 of the blue color alternating. the waves are alternating. Then I switch to a different color, then 3, then switch all the way to the top of the blanket. Now I'm going to show you how to make the border. So I just finished the last stitch at the top of the row. So I just finished my last single crochet of the row. So now I'm going to turn my work so that I'm going to be working down the side of the blanket. So here is the top of the blanket, and then here is the side of the blanket. And I'm just going to show you with my tapestry needle the stitches that I'm going to be working in, because along the top of the blanket it's easy because you can see the stitches and where you're going to create your crochet stitches. But when you're working along the side, you're going to have to evenly space the stitches. In this case, we're going to make a single crochet border all the way around the blanket. So in order to do that, we're going to be working under the side stitches along the blanket. And what I mean by that is, here you see the 2 rows of single crochet that ended up the 2 rows. You're going to work between the 2 single crochets. So you're going to make 1 single crochet in this spot. Then you're going to go to the next space, which is beneath a double crochet. So this is the double crochet on its side, and you're going to go into the gap underneath that double crochet, and you're going to make 2 single crochet stitches. So for the first stitch, you're going to go into that space. You're going to bring up a loop, make your single crochet, and you only want 1 single crochet between the single crochet rows. Then you're going to go under the double crochet, so the gap under the double crochet on its side, and bring up a loop, make your single crochet, and in this gap you want to place 2 single crochet. So every double crochet on its side, you want 2 single crochet in that gap. And then, so the next one is also a double crochet, so I'm going to place 2 single crochet in the gap beneath that double crochet. Then I'm at the 2 single crochet rows, so I'm going to go between the 2 rows and make my single crochet. Then I'm at the double crochet on its side, and you're going to keep repeating this all the way down the side of the blanket. That knot that you just saw is just where I joined my yarn. I'm still with the same skein, but I had cut it to use it for something else, and I just joined it back. So you can see how I'm placing 2 single crochet into the same space, and that will evenly space the single crochet down the side of the blanket for when we come back to place the border. So now I'm at a double crochet on its side. I'm going to go in the gap beneath the double crochet and make 2 single crochet. And then you look at your next space will be between the 2 single crochet rows. I'm going to go into that gap between the 2 single crochet rows and make 1 single crochet. So go ahead, repeat this pattern all the way down the side and then come back. So I just finished working a single crochet in all of the stitches down the side, and I finished with 46 stitches along the side of my blanket. Now I'm going to take and turn my work so that I'm working along the bottom of the blanket. Now along the bottom of the blanket you'll see that you have a wave at the bottom. Well, we want to straighten out that wave so that we have a straight border. So in order to do that, I just want to show you that I finished my single crochet in the space between the 2 single crochet rows. Now I've turned my work, and you're going to find the first stitch. So the first stitch on the end, I'm going to take my crochet hook and go into that stitch and bring up a loop and make a single crochet. Then I want to chain 2. And that will count as your first double crochet for the bottom row. And we're going to make 1 double crochet into each of the single crochet stitches. So this counts as your first one. You're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch over, and make your second double crochet. Next stitch over for your third double crochet. Next stitch over for your fourth. And you'll see how these double crochets are lining up with the single crochets along the bottom of the blanket. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I've reached the double crochets along the bottom of the blanket. I want to make 1 single crochet into each of those 5 stitches. And what you'll find is that we'll make a straight edge along the bottom of the blanket. Make sure that you finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you see how it creates a straight edge, which is what you want along the bottom. So now I've reached my 5 single crochet, so I'm going to make a double crochet into each stitch. And you're going to repeat this all along the bottom edge of the blanket and then come back. So your next 5 stitches will be single crochet, and then repeat all along the bottom of your blanket. So I just finished the bottom of the blanket, and now you can see that you have a pretty straight edge along the bottom. And then you have the single crochet edge that you just finished on the other side, and the corner is laying flat. Now we're going to turn the next corner. So now here is the bottom of my blanket, and I'm just turning it to the opposite side. And on this side I have a loose yarn end. I'm just going to bury it as I work. Now along the edge here, it looks like I finished with, let's see, double crochet. So I'm going to go into that first double crochet on its side, that gap, and I'm going to go behind the loose yarn end and bring up a loop and make my single crochet. And then I need another single crochet into the same space. Then I can go to the next double crochet and make my 2 single crochet into that space. Then you're going to get to your single crochet rows. So you're going to go between the 2 single crochet and make 1 single crochet, just like you did on the opposite side. And then the next row, next stitch will be under the double crochet on its side, and make 2 there. And then you're just going to repeat the same thing down the opposite side. So I just finished the opposite side, and now I'm back to the top of the blanket. So again, at the top of the blanket you can see that you have the wave still, so we're going to make a straight edge. To start, we're starting with double crochet. So you're going to want to make a single crochet in the first stitch. So I finished my last single crochet along the edge Now I'm going to take my crochet hook and go into the first stitch. And I'm going to bring up a loop, make a single crochet, and then I'm going to make a single crochet into each of the first 5 stitches. So the first chain on the end was your first double crochet, so that counts as your first one. So I'm going to go back because I only had 4, so I want to make sure that I get into that first chain 3 for the first stitch on the top, so that's 1. Then the second stitch is 2, third, fourth, and fifth. And it lines up exactly with the 5 double crochet from the previous row. Then I have my 5 single crochet from the previous row, and I want to make 1 double crochet into each of those stitches. So just like you did for the bottom of the blanket, you're repeating that same pattern. The only difference is you want to make sure that you're making your double crochets over the single crochets in the previous row, and then single crochets over the double crochets, and you can see how that makes a flat edge, which is what you want. So go ahead, repeat this pattern all along the top of the blanket, and then come back. So now this is what the blanket should look like so far. You can see that I have a straight edge going all around the blanket, and I finished my last double crochet to end the top of the row. So now I'm going to turn my work so that I'm going to work along the side of the blanket. So here's the top of the blanket, and here's the side of the blanket, and I'm going to show you how to make your border for the blanket now. So now I'm going to show you how to make the beginning stitch for the border. Before we start though, we just finished the top stitches, and now we're working down the side again, and you can see that I have a double crochet on its side. So I'm going to go into that gap beneath that first double crochet that we created for the top of the border, and we're going to make 2 single crochet in the gap beneath that double crochet. Then in the next stitch you're going to make a single crochet, and then you're going to chain 2. 1, 2, and that's going to count as your first double crochet for the stitch that we're going to create for the border. So now you're going to make a double crochet into the same stitch, then you're going to chain 2, then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch, then you're going to chain 2, and then 2 double crochet into the same stitch. And this is the first design for the side of the blanket. Now you're going to skip 2 stitches and then make a single crochet into that third stitch. Then you're going to skip 2 stitches and then make a double crochet into the third stitch. So skip 2 stitches and make a double crochet into the third stitch. And you want to be careful here because when you make this double crochet, sometimes you'll pull the loop too large. You want it about 1 centimeter. Then you're going to make another double crochet into the same stitch. Chain 2, 2 double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 2, 2 double crochet into the same stitch. And you create a little half spoke for the design on your border. So now you're going to skip 2 stitches and make a single crochet into the 3rd stitch. Skip 2 stitches and make your double crochet and repeat. So go ahead, finish making your design down the side of the blanket, and then come back. I'm just going to finish this last spoke with you, half spoke. So this is what my side looks like, and I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 so far of the half spokes. And now I'm at the corner. I just finished my single crochet, and then I have the corner stitch. So I want to, around the corner you may skip only 1 stitch, so it depends on where you fall at your corner. So at this corner I can still skip 2 and then make a half spoke right on the corner. So I'm going to take and create my double crochet right in that corner stitch. And then make my half spoke. So you can see how I made the half spoke right on the corner. Now I'm going to turn my blanket so that I'm working along the bottom of the blanket. Now this is the area where you may want to skip only 1 stitch and then make your single crochet into the next stitch, because you don't want the corner to curl up. You want it to lie flat. So then I'm going to make a double crochet, and then I'm going to skip 1 stitch again. So I'm going to yarn over, skip 1 stitch, and then make my double crochet. And then make my half spoke. Then you can see how I have the half spoke design on the corner of the blanket, and it lies flat. Then you're ready to work along the bottom of the blanket, and you can resume your regular pattern, meaning that I'm going to skip 2 stitches and make a single crochet into the 3rd. Then I'm going to skip 2 stitches and make a double crochet into the 3rd for my half spoke design. So go ahead, repeat this all the way around your blanket. So now that you know how to turn the corners and you know how to make your design, you can finish going all the way around back to the beginning and then come back. I'm going to go ahead and finish this one. So I just wanted to show you one thing. So I just finished across the bottom of the blanket. And across the bottom of mine I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the half spokes. And then I made it to the corner. And I just want to show you how I made it around this corner. So here you can see that I just finished a half spoke, so I need a single crochet. So I'm going to only skip 1 stitch on this corner. to make my single crochet. Then I'm going to skip one stitch and then make my double crochet into the next stitch on the corner. And then I'm going to create my half spoke. So I just wanted to show you how I did it on the next corner. It was similar to the last corner. And then I will be skipping only one stitch also. So after I finish this half spoke, I'll show you what I did. So here you can see how I finished the half spoke on the corner. Now I'm only going to skip one stitch and then make a single crochet into the next stitch. And then I'm around the corner, so I'll actually just skip one stitch and then make my double crochet and then make my half spoke. Then I'll resume skipping two stitches just like I did on the opposite side. So that was just how I got around the corner to keep it lying flat and then to have my design half spoke on the corner. I decided to go ahead and just show you how I turned the last corner. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I finished with a single crochet. So I want to fit another wave here before the wave on the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip one stitch and make my double crochet into the next stitch. So this is just how you're going to work around the corners. So depending on the size of your blanket, you may fall perfectly to make your corner like this one. But on this one, I need to squeeze in one more before I put mine in the corner. So I'm just showing you how I did that. So instead of skipping two stitches, you can skip one stitch in order to do that, just like I'm doing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and make my half spoke. So I just finished the half spoke. I'm going to skip one stitch and make a single crochet into the next stitch. And then again, I'm going to skip one stitch and then make my half spoke into the next stitch on the corner. So now I can skip one stitch and make a single crochet in the next stitch. Then I'm going to skip one stitch and make a double crochet into the next stitch to make my half spoke. Then you can see how I made it around that corner and it's lying flat. Now I can resume skipping two stitches after I finished my half spoke. I'm going to skip two stitches and then make my single crochet and then just resume skipping two stitches and then making my half spoke across the top of the blanket. And when you reach the beginning where you started, come back and I'll show you how I joined for the last half spoke for the border. Okay, so I just finished making my half spokes across the top of my blanket, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I want to make my last half spoke for the corner. So I just finished my last half spoke for the top. So I'm going to skip one stitch and then make a single crochet into the next stitch. Then I'm going to skip one stitch and then make my half spoke into the next stitch, which will be the last one on the corner. So I'm just going to make my half spoke skip one stitch and then make a half spoke in the corner stitch. Yep, try that again. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I finish up the last corner of the blanket. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 across the top. And I want to fit 2 more of the half spokes to finish up the top of the blanket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip 1 stitch and then make a single crochet into the next stitch. So that's how you can play around with the size of your blanket and creating the border. You may have to skip 1 stitch instead of 2 in order to complete the design that you want. So now I'm going to skip 1 stitch and then make a double crochet into the next stitch. And then I'm going to make my half spoke. Then I'm going to skip 1 stitch and make a single crochet. And then I'm going to skip 1 stitch. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and skip 2 stitches and then make my last half spoke for the corner. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches and then make my half spoke. Then I have 2 stitches remaining, so I'm going to skip 1 stitch and then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. So I'm just going to yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook. Then I'm going to go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And then you finished the last corner of the blanket. Then you can take your loose yarn end, put it onto your tapestry needle, and then you're just going to weave it through the wrong side of the blanket. And the wrong side of the blanket is the side with the ridges. And what I do is I just weave it through a couple of times, making sure that it's nice and buried. And then once I'm happy with how much it's buried, you can take and just trim it. Then you have your nice baby blanket or security blanket with the nice flat corners and border. For the security blanket, you can use these for the optional attachment for the toys, or the baby toys or teether. This one is from Bright Starts, Chillin' Teeth. Here's some more information about this one if you like this one. And I'm using the little greenish colored one to go with the blanket. If you like these little security blankets, I have another crochet pattern, another video tutorial for another one. And for this one I show you how to make the heart with the button strap. And this is another teether that I used for that blanket. To make the little crochet boat strap, you're going to need your 4mm crochet hook, as well as your tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. The yarn that I used is I Love This yarn, metallic peacock colored, has a sparkly blue. Here's some information about this yarn. And then I also used the same yarn in the white metallic colored. The light blue sparkly yarn that I used is by I Love This cotton yarn. It's 100% cotton. So start with the main color for the boat, and I'm using my metallic peacock blue or turquoise blue. You're going to take the yarn, fold it over on itself to form a loop, and then I'm using my 4mm crochet hook. Go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down, and then the loop, just cinch it around the crochet hook. Not too tight, not too loose. Then you're going to make a chain. So you're just going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for one chain. I'm just going to show you 4 of them on video tutorial. This is my second chain, third, and fourth. So go ahead and finish a chain of 18 and then come back. Then you're going to take your crochet hook and you're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So you just yarn over, go into the 4th chain from the hook, bring up a loop, and then make your double crochet. And then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. And then come back. So this measures about 4 inches, and I completed 16 total double crochet. Then we're going to move up to the next row. So you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to turn your work. And for this row, we want to add 1 double crochet on each end. So you're going to make a double crochet in the same stitch as the initial chain 3. So you're going to yarn over, go into that same stitch, make a double crochet. So now you have 2 double crochet stitches on the end. Then you're just going to make 1 double crochet in every stitch back across except for the last stitch. In the last stitch of the row, you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So now you should have 18 double crochet for that second row, and you're starting to create a little slant on each side, which is what you want. Then you're going to chain 3, turn your work, and then repeat the same thing for this row. You're going to make a double crochet into the same stitch on the end, and then 1 double crochet in every stitch back across except for the last stitch. In the last stitch, you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch, and then come back. Now you should have 20 double crochet to finish that row. Then you're going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop and bring enough yarn through to sew this onto your blanket. Now I'm going to show you how to make the sail. Now you can set this aside, and you're going to take your white yarn. We're going to make the sail. So you're going to take and just fold the yarn over on itself to form a loop, and take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb, then yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Now you're going to need a chain of 15. I'm just going to make 4 of them with you. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead, finish a chain of 15 and then come back. After you finish your chain of 15, you're going to make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So go into the second chain from the hook, bring up a loop, make your single crochet, and then make 1 single crochet into each of the stitches back across, and that should give you a stitch count of 14 when you're finished. So now you should have a stitch count of 14. Then you're going to take and turn your work. You're going to work into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, make a single crochet, and then you're going to make one single crochet in every stitch back across, and that should give you a stitch count of 13 when you finish this row. Then you're going to turn your work, and again you're going to go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, make your single crochet, and you're going to keep repeating this, going into the next stitch and making a single crochet all the way. You can see that it's decreasing by 1. The stitch count will be a 12, the next one will be 11, 10. You're going to keep repeating this all the way until you have one single crochet. So at the end of this one, you should have 12 stitches. You will also notice that you're starting to form a triangle, which is what you want. So go ahead, keep repeating, turn your work, go into the next stitch over, make your single crochet, and then one single crochet in each stitch across, and then for each row your stitch count should be decreasing by 1. This is how my work looks so far. Then I'm going to make my last row, so I'm going to turn my work, and then I only have one stitch, so I'm going to make my single crochet into the next stitch, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew this onto your blanket. Now go ahead and make 2 of these, and you're also going to need 2 of the bottom portion of the boat. Now you want to take 2 of the pieces, and you're going to take your security blanket or whatever blanket you're sewing it on, and then I usually like to use the top left corner. So I'm going to take the top left corner, and I want to go ahead and line up the top sail. So the top sail is going to point towards the corner, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew that in place with my tapestry needle. I'm going to bring the short end through first. Then I'm going to take the long end that I left for sewing, or you can take the same colored yarn and put it onto your tapestry needle. And then you're just going to make sure that you line it up so that it's not crooked or the way that you want it to look on the blanket. Then you're just going to take and sew, just going in and out, sewing it to the right side of your blanket. This is how mine looks after I sewed the front side. Then you're going to take and turn it over. You're going to take any loose yarn ends and bring it towards the center of the opposite side's sail. Then take your second sail and you're going to place it over the area that you sewed on the front. And then you're going to sew it in place, being careful not to have it show through outside of the sail. You want to match the stitches on the front so it looks good on both sides of the blanket. Then I just took and buried any loose yarn ends right through the center of the sail, being careful not to go through to the opposite side. Then you're ready to sew on the bottom portion of the boat. This is what it looks like on the right side and the wrong side. Now you just line up the bottom of the boat and then you sew it in place the exact same way. This is what it looks like on the right side, and then you have another one on the wrong side. Now I'm going to show you how to make the center flag on the sail. You're going to take your light blue colored yarn, and then you're going to fold it over on itself to form a loop. Take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for your slip knot. Now you're going to make a chain of 12. Make sure that the loop around your crochet hook is not too tight, not too loose. Then you're going to make a chain of 12. After you finish your chain of 12, you're going to make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So take your crochet hook, go into the second chain from the hook, bring up a loop, make your single crochet, and then you're going to make one single crochet into the next 3 stitches. Then you're going to turn your work, make a single crochet into the next stitch over, next stitch over, make a single crochet, and then in the last stitch make one single crochet. Then you're going to turn your work, make a single crochet into the next stitch, then one single crochet into the last stitch. Then you're going to turn your work, and then you're going to make a single crochet into that next stitch. Then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and make sure you pull enough yarn through to sew the flag onto the sail of the ship. You need 2 of these, one for the front and then one for the back. So I've already sewed mine on the front. Now I'm going to turn the work over and make sure that the stitches line up and that the sails are facing. Now for mine, the sail is going to be the opposite directions, but I'm going to make sure that the stitches don't show through on the opposite side. Then I just took and buried any loose yarn ends along the flag post, making sure not to go through to the opposite side. And then just trimming the loose yarn end once I've buried it nicely. And then this is what the boat looks like on the one side, the wrong side, and then this is what it looks like on the right side. So now I'm going to show you how to make the life preserver button strap. So go ahead and take your light blue colored yarn or whatever color you want for the life preserver, and we're going to make a magic circle. So drape the yarn across your 4 fingers, use your thumb to stabilize, wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers, and then hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb. Then you're going to take your crochet hook, go under those 2 loops around the middle fingers, bring up a loop, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Then you're going to go under those 2 loops around the middle finger again. You're going to bring up a loop. You have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through both loops for a single crochet. Then you're going to chain 2. 1, 2, and that's going to count as your first double crochet in the magic circle, and we're going to make a total of 24 double crochet into the magic circle. So yarn over, go under those 2 loops around the middle fingers, bring up a loop, you're going to make your double crochet, and you're going to continue to make 1 double crochet in every stitch. 1 double crochet into the magic circle until you've completed a total of 24. 24 double crochet into the magic circle. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 7, 8. So go ahead, finish making your 24 double crochet into the magic circle, and then come back. Now the one thing about the double crochet in the magic circle that's nice is you can scoot the stitches over as you work, and then just resume making your double crochet stitches into the magic circle until you've completed a total of 24 in the round. So here you can see I finished 24 double crochet into the magic circle. Now I'm going to take my forefinger and thumb, and I'm going to hold the base of those 24 double crochet, just like this. Then you have these 2 loops on the opposite side. You're going to pull on one of them. If it doesn't close, let go and pull on the other one. And then you don't want to close it completely. You want a little center in the you want a little hole in the center of your life preserver. Then, when you have the size that you want, then you just take that loose yarn end and then pull on that. Then you're going to turn your work and you're going to make a slip stitch into that first double crochet that you had in the magic circle. So you take your crochet hook, go into that top stitch of that first double crochet that you made. You're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook to slip stitch it into a circle. Then you're going to yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the life preserver onto your crochet button. So now go ahead and turn this over, and you want to take your tapestry needle and put it onto the short loose yarn end right in the center, and you just want to bury it. So just kind of weave your tapestry needle through the center of the life preserver, just burying that loose yarn end so it doesn't come undone. And then you can go ahead and trim that. Then you're going to want to set this life preserver aside. I'm going to show you how to make the crochet button. For the crochet button, I'm using the same colored yarn as the bottom of the boat. So now I'm going to go ahead and start with the magic circle again. Take my crochet hook. I'm going to bring up a loop, make my slip knot, and this time you're going to place 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and my last one. So I have a total of 6 single crochet into the magic circle. Again, you're going to take your forefinger and thumb, hold the base of the 6 single crochet. You have these 2 loops on the opposite side. Go ahead and pull on one of them. Again, if it doesn't close, let go and pull on the other one, but this one's closing. This time you want to completely close as much as you can. Then take the loose yarn end and pull on that. Then you're going to turn your work to work into the first stitch. And you're going to make 2 single crochet into each stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round. So 2 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 12 stitches, and then come back. Then you want to take your yarn marker and place it right where you left off. In my case, I'm just using one of my scraps of yarn. Then you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So only 1 single crochet in every stitch around all the way up to your yarn marker. Now you should still have 12 stitches in the round when you get back to your yarn marker. If you need to close the center of the magic circle, you can take the loose yarn end on the wrong side and pull on that gently. And then you're just it's starting to form a cup, so the loose yarn end will go on the wrong side towards the inside of the button. You're going to leave the yarn marker in place. We just completed one round, and you're going to continue making one single crochet in every stitch around until you've completed a total of 3 rounds, and then come back. Then after you finish your 3 rounds, you're going to go ahead and take your yarn marker and move it up, but first take and tuck your loose yarn end into the center of the button. Then take your yarn marker and move it up, and you're going to make 1 round of decrease stitches. So you're going to take your crochet hook, you're going to go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through all 3 for a decrease stitch. And what you're doing is just decreasing the number of stitches in the round. So you're just going to keep repeating decrease stitches all the way around back to the yarn marker, and then that will decrease the number of stitches to 6 in the round. And then the last one. Then take and remove the yarn marker, and now we're going to slip stitch it closed. So you're going to take your crochet hook, you're going to skip the next stitch, go into the next stitch, you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and then bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. We're just going to slip stitch it closed. Then, after it's closed, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the button onto the strap. So now your button is finished. And now I'm going to show you how to make the strap. So now I'm going to show you how to make the strap, and I'm using the same colored yarn as my boat and the button. Just take your yarn, fold it over on itself to form a loop, take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for your slip knot. Then you're going to make a chain of 1, 2, 3. Hold that last stitch with your middle finger and thumb, and then you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as your first double crochet for the second row. Now you're going to make a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook, which is the stitch that you're holding. So go ahead and yarn over, go into the 4th chain from the hook, bring up a loop, make your double crochet, and then you're just going to make a double crochet into the last 2 stitches. And then that gives you a stitch count of 4 double crochet for your strap. Go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Make a double crochet into the next stitch over. And then you're just going to finish making 1 double crochet into each of the stitches, and you'll have a stitch count of 4 double crochet. And you're going to keep repeating this. Chain 3, turn your work, 1 double crochet in each of the stitches, and you just keep repeating this pattern until you've completed a total of 6 rows, and then come back. Yep. So you can see I have a stitch count of 5. I made too many. I'll go ahead and remove that last one. You should only have a stitch count of 4 for each row. So go ahead, finish 6 rows of 1 double crochet in each stitch, and then come back. Then after you finish the last double crochet of the 6th row, then you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then turn your work, and then you're going to make a slip stitch in the opposite top stitch of that initial chain 3 that you made for the row. So then you just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to go ahead and just finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through just for a loose yarn end. This is the last part of my yarn to bury into your work, and now you have a little button loop at the end of the strap. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle and you're going to take and weave that loose yarn end through your work. Just bury it into the work. I like to go several directions, make sure that that loose yarn end won't come out. Then you can take and trim the loose yarn end after it's buried. Then you're ready to sew the button in place. After burying the loose yarn end on the opposite side of my button loop, took my button and place it right on the end. I have my long end that I left for sewing, or you can use the same colored yarn. I'm going to sew the button on the opposite end of the strap. Remember, your buttonhole has to be on the opposite end of the actual button. Then you just take and sew the button. Make sure you don't go through to the top of the button. You just want to sew the bottom portion of the button to the strap. Just go in and out and just sew your button to the end of the strap. And then after you've sewn it in place, then you can take and tie a knot on the back. After you've tied a knot, you can take that loose yarn end and then just go right through the button to bury it, and then just trim it. Then you have a button on the end of your strap. Now what you want to do is take your life preserver and sew it right on top of the button. So with the life preserver, I have my tapestry needle on the long end that I left for sewing, and then I just want to weave it towards the back side. This is the right side of my life preserver, and then I just kind of want to weave it towards the inside loop. Then I'm going to take and place it onto the top of my button, and then I want to take and sew a stitch at a time around the center of my life preserver. Make sure you have the shape of your life preserver as you're sewing. And I'm just going to go in and out, sewing the center of the life preserver only. I don't want to mess up the design of my life preserver either, so that's why I'm going to stitch at a time through the button and through the center. And then just sewing it in place. Then once I have it sewn in place, I can take and tie a knot on the back. And again, I can go right through the button, towards the back of the button, and then just trim the loose yarn end. Then I have my life preserver sewn in place and ready to sew onto my boat. Then I'm just taking the same colored yarn, putting it on the tapestry needle, and for my blanket, this is the right side of the blanket. Here's the wrong side of the blanket. I'm not putting a life preserver button on the back side of the blanket. I'm only placing it on the front. So you just pick where you want to put it onto the boat, and then you just take your tapestry needle and you take and sew the strap in place. So just sew on the strap, not the button itself. And then I only sew it to the boat. I'm not going through to the back of the blanket. This is what mine looks like after sewing the life preserver button in place. Then you can take and put your favorite toy or teether onto the strap, and then you just take the button loop and then just bring the life preserver through. And then you have, so for mine, I went ahead and pulled the whole button through the button loop. And this is what it looks like on the front. On the back side, I just put the life preserver and sewed that in place. So it's up to you if you want just the life preserver on the boat and you don't want the button and the strap. That's an option too, but that's how I created mine.